low, and we're back at it again. Although this time a bit too early. As you can see, outside Venice. So the idea today was to just walk around the Embassies in that little 2x2 loop where you've got China, Singapore, a bunch of Middle East, and then Austria for some reason in that loop. And some of the buildings are pretty nice looking. Bangladesh has a nice looking building, but it's a bit early and the sun's not out yet, so we're gonna kill some time. And we'll do a loop, and we'll probably walk down to Woodley Park just to make a nice continuous loop. There's the Potbelly. Potbelly is being taken private. I wish I could say the same for my Portillo's. Again, I probably over rely on a private equity put for some of my investment decisions. But again, for example, like there's selection effect of what you think of, and you remember a take private. And so all I can say is Portillo's has been, or Potbelly has been taken private. PB. Therefore, why not my PTLO, Portillo? You know? I don't see the fault in that logic. But any other finance things I want to gripe about? Warner Bros. Discovery finally up. Man, that was such a good average all the way down. And now it's finally double. David Zaslav will get a nice payout once again. I guess we'll see if he can do it again, but that's pretty good. I just suppose the only issue is that reminds me of my Oracle griping before. So I just suppose I'll always have to remember that aspect of it. Otherwise, we can keep on doing the mini game of seeing which flags are at half staff. I've walked by, again, because I don't film everything, right? I only do it in the mornings where it's less busy, or when it's less busy. But, of course, in the evenings, I like to do other walks around. And it was funny to walk by the, Union Station, right, as we saw yesterday. Every single flag is a half-mast. But if you walk past some of the federal courthouses, some of those were not at half-mast. You know, and all I could say is, interesting. You know, of course, the Army, the Court for the Armed Services was at half staff, but not for one of the big circuits. You know, which is interesting. Or it's more so just some groundskeeper didn't do anything. But we'll take that nonetheless. Yeah, otherwise, any topics I want to gripe about today? Nothing in particular. Just the finite nature of time. The wish to have call options as an individual. That's a big thing, right? It's just, in general, it is nice to have optionality. And especially when there's low effort ways to have optionality. You should probably have it. You know, excuse me. Like one example I think of a lot is the fact that you can sell your Reddit account. Right, like you can have an actual Reddit account and get it up to like X karma, make it look like a real account, and then just sell it. You know, and to me that's, again, right, like it's a simple thing. You're probably gonna have a Reddit account anyway. Is there really that much sentimental value you would attach to it? Probably not. Therefore, you just do what you do, right? Get your engagement, and then you sell your account for X bucks. Rinse and repeat. Now imagine if you made multiple Reddit accounts and you did it that way, and you have multiple call options on on which scammer to sell your account to, or intelligence service. You know, pretty good gig right there. But yeah, it's just small things like that. I do the other part about call options is that that's nifty. The other thing about call options is that they should presumably dovetail with your passions to some degree, right? I'm just, again, like to the Collison bros, and that, you know, the world's a monument to passion projects. And then, you know, presumably if you want to cultivate a portfolio of call options, well, cultivating a portfolio of call options can be a passion. Like, my passion is graphic design. My passion is cultivating a portfolio of deeply out of the money, low implied volatility call options. Well, sir, what are those call options? Asking a girl for a number, right? I don't know. That sounds quite out of the money. It's actually having a couple of Reddit accounts that I sell. That sounds less out of the money. But continue. You know, this is probably cul-de-sac, I feel. But well said. The other part, I just find there's a podcast called Risk of Ruin, where it's basically this guy, and it's very good because there's basically no interruptions for ads, so it's actually a very nice listen. And he just interviews random DJs who actually find niches, and it's not just gambling niches, but like credit cards, oh, what is this? Okay, credit cards and stuff like that, and just be able to, like, do really niche things. And I just find that State Department thing. Is this the State Department? I just find that super, like, the episodes are super inspiring, especially the non-sports betting ones, because sports betting to some degree, like you know what edges you can do, right? You can be sophisticated about how many, well, like trying to get past restrictions and stuff like that. So you can definitely be sophisticated in those areas. But at the end of the day, like, you know what you're doing. You know that it's, you know, you're still gonna have a lot of vol, and it's not perfect. But some of the guys where they find like an OG like credit card stuff, or like scratch off games, and they find an ARB doing that stuff, I find super respectable. And just interesting, because that's different, right? And there's certainly credit card optimizers is something I feel envious about. Did we pop up at the embassy stuff? Oh, we did. Okay. I guess the sun is out slightly, but I did not notice this last time. So finish loop. Again, just the joys of walking around and seeing what the world opens up to you. Right. That's certainly the David school of walking. Also, conceptually, there's so many embassies here. Presumably, at some point, there's probably been a lot of guys out here just bitching and complaining about some stuff, or you watch like some spy movie, and this is where they do a drop or something. And in actuality, I bet there's some spook listening to this. If you're listening to this, you guys caught him. I don't know who you caught, but you caught him. Yeah. Just what's nice thing is that ideally I'll never be in a position where my competence is that actively judged in a direct way where it's publicly. I just suppose you can see my YouTube videos and you can clearly tell that this man has poor videography skills and propensity to use low effort tools like typing into Google Slides to complain about things. But again, if I was going to complain about Oracle and it was my actual voice, I don't think that'd be that interesting, right? It'd be some marginally post-pubescent voice that's not overly distinctive, complaining about not making some money and whining about projecting about Larry Ellison dating or having 7 wife or something. But again, it's conceptually is like awesome. And there was a Wall Street Journal story. Again, Wall Street Journal, the very tilted rag that it is. But there's a funny passing line in an article about Ellison. It's like, he's recently taken an interest in having more kids after Elon's things. And all I can say is, if I was in that type of club, then I too would definitely be. Or like it makes sense for that to be the new comparison point, right? Because dollars are fungible. And well, Ellison and Musk have clearly shown that they are comparable when it comes to dollars, i.e. that prediction market about who's going to be the wealthiest man, or certainly to a marginal degree. As a quick aside, given my comment that Ellison and Oracle have always effectively overpromised and underdelivered, the funniest thing would be for this Oracle AI enterprise, multiple AI models thing to just completely facepalm. I think that'd be the most predictable and charming outcome. And again, somewhat romantic, right? You fail, but you keep going at it. Yeah, but again, right, so if you're rich, personally I've dabbled with the idea that, right, I think I've actually seen some articles that have made this point. So it's good to see that the thought leaders have come around to my point of view. But it's almost a flux at a certain point to have a lot of kids, right? Because it's almost like what is a status symbol? A status symbol is loosely a supply-demand thing, right? You have the fancy Maserati, right? The average person doesn't have Maserati. You have this scarce asset. Look at that. It's like a grill setup. That's nice. right? But you have the Maserati. Those schmucks don't have the Maserati. Therefore, you have the status symbol, right? And there's like the idea that you can model a lot of human behavior off the idea that people want to look as good as possible or be as visible as possible without ever looking bad, which I feel, right? All of a sudden, status symbols make so much sense, you know? And again, you can be very cynical about it if you want, right? Like how come guys want hot wives or girlfriends or escorts or whatever? It's like, well, I've got the insert actress X on my arm. Who do you have, chum? Like my VR chat, my character AI girlfriend. Yeah, sorry, bud. You lost that status game. You know? By extension, right? Like, can the average person, is it easy for the average person to have a lot of kids? I think the answer is no. Certainly given how, certainly given, you know, what I hear people talk about, or what I can infer from my mom's experience, right? And therefore, if it's hard for the average person to have a lot of kids, therefore, if you are a person of means, then is it not a flex to have a lot of kids? Especially when it is literally a biological thing, you know? It's like, I'm sure these guys, they'll read like that Genghis Khan statistic and they're like, light bulb moment goes off, you know? Like, unironically, I'm like 90% sure they've all had that moment. And again, there's probably some like novelty effect that'll certainly keep you, give you the buzz, you know, for doing that, which is fair. It's almost at a point where, like, if you have so many resources that it's not even a chore to have to do that stuff, right? And therefore, there's like no marginal effort to, you know, to having a bunch of kids, you know. So it's like easy W, easy status game. So, although I do suppose at a certain point, you know, like age comes for us all, and that would be an impediment. But I'm sure there's ways around it in the grand scheme. But it will be tough for Ellison because Musk has a like 20 kid head start. So got to get the rookie numbers up. I will say it is nice how you know, half the street is blocked off for a certain embassy. You know. Again, right, just inhibiting the built environment. Because why not? But so you have two parts of the complex, right? You have that part of the loop and this part of the loop. I think this one's Nigeria. I think last time I was here, there was like a Chipotle bag outside the side entrance. And it's good to know. It's good to know what the Nigerian taxpayer is paying for. You know? Or you can read it as a sign that any Nigerian food in the DC area is not authentic enough for Nigerian embassy staff. Excuse me, this is Pakistan. But again, sample size, blah blah. But you know, Yeah, look at that parking lot. That's again, right, this is my prior comments. So I think on the last embassy tour walk I did down Embassy Row, nope, that Indian embassy was not the actual embassy, but it said it was the embassy. So I don't really know. But the actual embassy does look much nicer. So we have that. Musk, Ellison, anything else? Yeah, like there's no downside, right? Especially when you, like, there'll be such an age difference. The same way like Murdoch has his daughters, or has his kids, right? And he has like clearly like, well, I will say just because there's always like nuance, like who's the favorite kid and stuff like that. But when you literally, give some kids more money than the other kids, that tells you a pretty direct way which kids are favored and which kids aren't. And for the Murdochs, very like, it's obvious that Rupert likes Lachlan or whomever more. But his two kids with his not his latest wife, but his like Asian wife, right? Like, I'm not sure if they get less money, but they certainly don't have any voting rights, right? And to me, it's always like, who's your favorite kid? And that's always an ambiguous question. But then you have moments of lucidity where you actually have to define it. And it's, again, right, like, say what you mean. And then bam, in a contract, you are indirectly saying what you mean. What you got is nice. I do suppose that is kind of universal, because I do suppose most parents kind of have to deal with that. And like divvy up the estate. If I imagine most people, the estate's like, who wants the family home? Or something like that, is my guess. Wait, look at that. Yeah, Pakistan looks good, right? Yeah, like that classic. Right, the camera probably won't see it well, but that style. The nice. I'm not sure what would you call it? Minaret? No, because minaret's a tower. Mosaic? Mosaic doesn't sound right. But Malaysia. I like that comment of that flag being the right way. Those not. Of course, one's on the outside, one's facing in, but I do imagine, like, if you're here, like, yeah, just imagine what the vibes are like, like you see you're in the Malaysia window and you see your Pakistan bros and you're like, what is Malaysia, Pakistan? Excuse the voice crack. Probably vote a lot together, Oh, somebody else noticed, right? Just notice the difference in number of police cars that are here versus the other side. As far as I can tell, there's a big difference. Brunei. Now that's a country you don't hear a lot about, right? You hear about Malaysia a lot, or more often. You hear about Indonesia more often. But you don't really hear about Brunei. Now, why is that? It's almost like the inverse of the halo effect, right? Where the halo effect is where if you're in a group of people, odds are you seem more attractive if you're in a group of people. I imagine it's like the inverse where, Brunei is, right, it's a small country that's nestled against Indonesia, literally Indonesia. But yeah, but the UAE embassy, like that actually, like genuinely looks pretty nice. Yeah. I don't know. Also, like the Egypt one looks pretty good, right? In that like more brutalist style. I don't know. The UAE one does a, cause I don't know, kind of does look in that, you know, what you'd imagine as that like traditional style. I will say a lot of like as a passing urban development or transit schmuck, I will say you do develop opinions about cities, right? I will say some of the, and then here's Austria, right? Austria is mogged by UAE. But what can you do? But some of the some of the like Gulf cities do just look like the old towns aside, because the old towns, you know, actually developed to be walkable and livable because they were, you know, designed for a time before cars and all that. But some of the, and here's Slovakia. Again, also mogged. So pretty much everybody's mogged by UAE. But then you have to ask, well, which emirate, you know? For some reason, my TikTok, I've recently gotten this like UAE tourism guy. He just does a bunch of like there's a bunch of like explainer videos on the different emirates, and his videos would be like, you know, what are the 12 emirates, or what is each emirate known for, you know? And it's like, I did not know that there was an emirate dedicated to glassware, you know? But like, and so I did watch the entire video, which is probably why I keep getting them, right? But it's like, that's not what I want to optimize my TikTok for, you know? I want to optimize my TikTok for you know what the what the average guy optimizes TikTok for, you know. I will say one of the greatest shames is that my Instagram Explorer tab, right, is just it's horrible. Like I would be more embarrassed to show my my Instagram Explorer than my TikTok for you feed. Because it's my TikTok for you, there tends to be something interesting about it. That's not just like thirst traps and stuff, or just like models or that stuff. But like the Instagram Explorer feed, like, you know, like say what you mean. You know, it's like, I don't know. And if I think in one of I had an essay or a video about why Instagram Reels can't compete with TikTok. I do genuinely think that at one point, I haven't heard anybody talk about it, so I might be out of my mind, but it makes sense, right? Because if a big advantage having an algorithm, right, is that you have data that you can use to, like, you know, optimize your preferences and show what content you want to see, right? And presumably, like, a lot of people have used Instagram for a while, right? I've had an Instagram since middle school, you know, so it stands to reason that my Instagram Reels, right? Instagram just carries all that forward. You know, it's not like there'd be a consent decree where Instagram would need to not use my content as a minor. Actually, that might be the case. I do tend to doubt it, though. Right? So it's like you have all of your baggage effectively from when you're a teen that carries forward. And that probably reduces the quality of your feed, right? Because presumably not all of your interests from back then are what interests you today, you know? So I think genuinely that's like a reasonable thesis for the world. But yeah, so anyway, like it would be shameful, but it'd be very embarrassing to have it obvious. I will say, if you ever want a good laugh, you should look at Michael Saylor's Instagram and who he follows, because it's literally this nice little line. It's literally all. I mean, literally, it is literally only crypto influencers, and by influencers I mean like the crypto bros, and then like Instagram models. It is literally only one of the two. Yeah, I just find it incredibly awesome. Which I just find awesome, right? Because you've literally made yourself. Honestly, like Sailor, like it's always hard to disintermediate like the grifting versus sincerity, but in the sense that Sailor is literally, right? He turned a failing or literally limited enterprise software company that's declining in sales, and he literally parlayed that into a Bitcoin, a crypto mining thing. And that's pretty impressive, you know. So it's kudos, but it's, you know, how much of that is because of the Instagram account and following models and crypto influencers, you know. There's probably something to that. Again, that is just good capital allocation right there by Sailor. Again, genuinely. But again, it is hard to disintermediate the two. Now, one of the interesting things, or actually, this is a good photo op right here. So this building right here is some random State Department thing. If you look on Google Maps, and you can see it in the flag right there. Like it's some, spook thing, right? But here, right, you see the flags at half staff. Whereas here, right, there's the Chinese embassy, right? You see the classic Zhongnanhai label, right? And that flag is not a half staff. Well, this one is. And all I can say is, that's why America must contest the Indo-Pacific, because China simply clearly doesn't respect Charlie Kirk enough. National hero Charlie Kirk. Again, it is bizarre. It is truly bizarre to me that Charlie Kirk is getting so much attention. Something else to notice is that there's this park over here, and apparently, if you go on Google Maps, you'll see reviews or complaints about the park being closed. And so that park has literally been closed since 2023 or something, So it's good to know. But it has literally been closed since 2023. So, not joking. And that's a nice feature, the Panda in the security car. I will say that's good architecture right there to prevent entry, right? It's not on the nose, right? That looks very subtle and postmodern. And then you've got Singapore, where it's literally barbed wire. if you can make it out, right? It's like barbed wire versus that, like that looks very subtle. Yeah, that feels kind of on the nose for something for Singapore. I think a colleague said that Singapore felt like a shopping mall. I suppose you can say that about a lot of places, but I'm inclined to believe it, or I agree with it. But again, clearly given my vague opinions about things that I don't fully articulate, I'm not a man married to ideas. Or the ideas I take that back. I do have ideas I'm married to, but I lack the desire to debate them unless they, like, like the joke is, I would trade all of my knowledge of dialectical materialism for 2 dates, coffee dates, it's like too much. I'm too principled to give it all up for just one, but for 2, that's too good of a deal. And then what else? I would trade all my knowledge of small cap QSR restaurant concepts to go on 2 dates as well. And honestly, that would actually be a great deal, because all of those QSR small restaurant ideas like Portillo's or Denny's, really haven't been good for me. There's Kuwait, haven't been good to me. I don't know. And if the prior point is like asymmetry, right? And that's actually a very good, right? Like opportunity costing, right? Where stocks are asymmetric. They can only go to 0, but they can have uncapped upside, presumably, or academically. And the same thing with a date, right? Cap downside. You just have an embarrassing story, or just something that keeps you up at night for a couple of days. Versus, I suppose the upside in that case is just happy life, or just shorter term upside. Fill in the blank. Hey, get back to yesterday's conversation about, do you have like one risk budget or do you have multiple risk budgets? It's like, do I trade up my financial upside from knowing about crappy QSR restaurant concepts? Or would I, for a date where there's a different type of upside? Jordan. It's like, I do suppose the irony is that, right, like small QSR concepts just fundamentally aren't great businesses. So I genuinely would be better off just concentrating in higher quality companies are just less nuanced or less different. And then you just go on a date, go on 2 dates. In fact, that'd be a good deal. That is a fun concept. Like, what would you give up for something? Like, what knowledge base would you give up? So there's Ethiopia. Like, what knowledge base would you give up for something like that? I'll say Morocco's also looks pretty nice, distinctive. That is great. Like, which ones would you give up? Like, yeah, I'd probably give up my knowledge of sub-Saharan African countries as well. I don't think knowing about Liberia will help me too much in everyday life. And I would give up knowledge of sub-Saharan African countries for just one. That feels like a good trade. Here's Bangladesh. You don't hear about Bangladesh a lot. To the degree you probably should. But come to think of it, there's probably something, of course, and then of course, to fill in a joke, right? It's the Israeli embassy. that causes everything to be blocked off on this side. You know, who are these guys? Ghana. So I do suppose Ghana is the is the prototypical buffer state, as you would expect. All right. Yeah, I do suppose. Yeah. Well, I guess Morocco is actually friendly with Israel, given some of the discontent you see online. But what was the point? I will say that's actually pretty. And if you want to block off people seeing from inside, you know, Teal could take some notes. But yeah, so I can't recall how long the fencing's been up, but it's been up a while. To where, like, I remember like last summer walking by and it being blocked off. So who knows how long it'll take. Yeah, but so those are all the easy picking embassies. So now, right, probably this loop, it's Cleveland Park or something. But again, right, it is just nice to, right, you see like the difference in cops, right? Like infinite cops over there, like 2 cops over here. You know, some signal. I'm not sure who the cops are there for. Are they for Israel or China? Place your wagers. But yeah, anything else I would trade all my knowledge. Again, the one thing I'm moderately proud of is just knowing things about a lot of things, even if it's not incredibly in depth. Like, I do think I'm excluding hard science stuff. Like there, I fully admit I am stumped. You know, like high school chemistry really showed me the depths of my my innate context and knowledge. But otherwise, really, like, generally pretty happy with my broader knowledge. I don't think I'm really that caught unawares about things. You know. Oh my gosh, we missed on that. But yeah, so I have some knowledge base. I'd be happy to trade. At some points. But anything else that comes to mind? Geographically, I feel like other areas are reasonably